Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. My name is Wendy Sachs, and I'm a member of Plant Powered Metro New York. Welcome to our ongoing series, Cooking with Chef Carole, which is being presented to you by Plant Powered Metro New York and a new partner co-sponsoring with us, the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. Some of you may remember that Carole and I started live at the JCC. So for those of you who haven't been online with us for a while, welcome back. And for some of you who've been following us all along since COVID, welcome back to today's show. So Plant Powered Metro New York empowers people to find better health and overcome chronic disease through a whole food, plant-based approach to nutrition. Together with a wide range of grassroots leaders, organizers, and educators, we raise awareness about the dramatic health benefits of a whole food, plant-based diet. With a food as medicine approach, we offer education, build supportive communities that empower people to make lifestyle adjustments, and organize and lead projects that spark changes to food policy, practice, and culture. So a warm welcome again today to the participants of the JCC. We have several upcoming programs in our partnership that include a possible series with Chef Carole, March 10th through March 31st. 31st. Poof. I will announce more about that at the end of the show, so please stay tuned. And we have a 4-part series with Dr. Esselstyn, which I'll also announce later. So let us know where you're from in the chat. Also, please ask questions in the chat. We might have time between things if Carole has a minute, but otherwise we'll reserve some time at the end to do a Q&A with Carole. And if you're enjoying this presentation, please like us on Facebook or on YouTube, or for those who are watching the show afterwards on the replay, please like us, press like if that's the case. So, quick fun fact, February is Heart Healthy or Heart Awareness Month. And in honor of that, Carole is going to give you a special recipe with beets today. So, science, the high nitrate content of beets increases blood nitric oxide concentrations, which may help prevent heart disease by lowering blood pressure. For endurance athletes, it's also used in a combo of beet juice and cucumber juice during high-intensity exercise, as it could improve their performance. And the greens of beets are edible. They're packed with carotenoids, minerals, protein, and fiber. So a special salute to beets for Heart Healthy Month. Carole, finally, to you on the menu today.
Hi, Wendy, and hello, everyone. And I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone. It's January, and we're starting the year off. And I learned a fun fact the other day. I learned that on January 14th, actually, which is already passed, everyone has given up on their resolutions that they made it January 1st. So here we are on the 23rd. And all I want to say to you is if you committed yourself to health, right, for the new year, that's your commitment, and you've already gotten off path or off the track, please come back and don't give up, because we all have to refocus all the time. So to fall off is kind of a normal thing. So let's get started, because as always, I try to cram in so much into the 1 hour and 15 minutes that we have. Today we're making 3 things, Wendy. We're making a wonderful parsnip curry apple soup, which I just remembered I never peeled the apple, so we better get that apple. We suddenly better get this apple close by, because I didn't prep the apple. And then we're also making a wonderful beet salad with pea shoots. And then we're making a sauce that I love so much called chimichurri. And I haven't made it in years, because it is a sauce that is very common over steak or fish, but it's delicious over vegetables, and it usually has a lot of oil in it. So today is my healthy version of chimichurri, and bringing it back into my life. And I've been loving it, and we'll learn that at the very end. We're going to get started right away with the soup, okay? And while I'm talking to you about the soup, and I have to get the peeler, which I have already lost. So you see, things get lost in the shuffle of things. I forgot that we actually needed an apple for this very soup. Okay, and usually I usually step you through the whole soup, but this time we're gonna do it a little bit, not backwards, but the goal here is to get the soup started as fast as possible, and then I'm gonna go back and we're gonna talk about the broth that I made for the soup, and we're gonna talk about how to clean a parsnip and how to clean a leek. But we're going to get the soup started because it needs almost 50 minutes for cooking. And if we don't do that, we won't have enough time. So right now, as you just saw, I just peeled an apple. These peels would have gone into my pot that had all the peelings from the soup. And we'll talk about that. But let's just get this apple at least started. Now, the other thing that we're going to do right now is the pot is already getting hot, and I can feel it. And how do I know when it's hot? I always remind you and show you that just by flicking a little bit of water, you listen and you hear that sizzle and the little bubbles kind of dance across the bottom of the pot. And voila, we're ready to go. We're going to talk about the leek, but right now I have these leeks here, and they're going to get drained, okay? I'm just going to put my hand over it. You could use a fine mesh sieve if you have a sieve, but I'm just getting these leeks immediately into the pan. And how many leeks do I have? Leeks really vary in size, just like onions. You know, sometimes you have a small onion and sometimes you have a big onion. Well, leeks are like that too. Sometimes one leek the other day when I cut it up yielded almost 2 cups. Today it took actually 2 leeks to equal the same measurement. Okay, so these leeks are already starting to cook. There's a little bit of water in there just from the water that I had left in the bowl. And those are going to start to saute. And we're going to get a spoon for that. And let me just get a bigger spoon out here. And we'll just get this started cooking. Now, we're not cooking with any oil today and or any other days that I'm cooking. So this, in the pan right now, there's no oil, and it's the little bit of water that was in this that I left behind that is steaming a little bit. It's not buried in any kind of water. There's just a hair little bit of water in there. Now, while I'm talking to you, I'm actually going to core this apple very quickly. Get out the actual seeds, right? And I'm just going to roughly chop this apple. So we peeled it, and we are going to just throw those. Now, that would have gone into the stock, okay? And we're going to talk about the stock, but not this second. So just know that I forgot the apples and when I was prepping ahead of time. And we're just going to cut these up pretty much the same size as the parsnips and carrots. Now, I wanted to do a show on how much I love all root vegetables. But there's so many root vegetables that today we're only going to use, mainly we're going to use parsnips, and we're going to use beets today. Those maybe are my 2 favorite, but just know that carrots are also a root vegetable, right? So what we're going to do is I've already prepped, and I'm going to show you how to prep the parsnip. But in this bowl are 4 parsnips, and the parsnips look just like this. They look just like a carrot, and you can treat it almost just like a carrot, only we do need to peel it. Okay, so I've cut everything up. I've cut 2 large carrots, and that is all going to go into this pot as everything is cooking. And so let's get the apples in here too. So the apples, parsnips, and carrots are all going in, and I'm just going to get those in here right this very minute. And that's done like that. Now, what's going to help thicken this soup is I love to put a couple handfuls of rice in a soup if I want it really velvety and creamy. And you might say, what kind of rice? it honestly doesn't matter. I wouldn't stay away from putting in black rice or red rice, but brown rice, white rice, all is fine. Just know that you're adding a starch that is not cooked, and it can want to stick to the bottom. So once you add that rice to the pot, you just have to keep in mind to stir it, not so often, but often, so that none of that starch is sinking to the bottom and wanting to stick to the bottom. Now, let's just say you don't have rice or you don't want to put rice. Sometimes I put a potato or two, a white potato. That's another way of getting like a creamy, velvety soup without making a cashew cream, right? I'm trying to make something that's super smooth, super velvety, but no cream, right? And because we're at the start of the year, we're all watching our weight, right? Everyone is, because they've eaten too much maybe in the holidays. I thought it's best for us to stay away from a cashew cream for this soup. I did suggest you could use it as a garnish if you want. But so in the recipe that you all have gotten, it says 2 handfuls of rice. And I know that, you know, your husband's hand is maybe bigger than your hand, or, you know, everybody's hand is different. Does it really matter how much rice? It really doesn't. But I measured 2 of my handfuls today, and it's just slightly under 1/3 cup. Okay, so 1/3 cup of rice is going to go into here, and I'm actually using short grain white rice because I have so much of it that I just want it to be gone, and this is a perfect way to like get rid of it. I'm putting in right this very minute, I have 3 teaspoons of curry powder. Okay, and there's lots and lots of kinds of curry powders that you could use. This is just a regular curry powder. Nothing really too special about this curry powder. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the spoon, and I'm always making sure to hold this pot with my hand. And I'm just getting all of this stirred. Oh, and it already smells so good. If you've never eaten a parsnip, you are in for a treat, because it smells, it has this unbelievable smell. It's a little bit sweet, just a little bit, not very. And I'll just take this off and just show you what this looks like while it's cooking. It's got the curry powder all over it. There's no garlic in this soup. So this is what it's looking like, okay? Very beautiful. And I think we've gotten everything in but the broth. So I say to you 6 to 8 cups. I have a ladle here that's already, I know it literally says 8 ounces. So I know every time I use this, so I'm just going to count, and I'll tell you about the broth in 1 minute, but we're just gonna get this in. So 1, 2, 3. So almost 4 cups covers all the vegetables. And over here, I have another thing, and this is exactly 4 cups because it's in a 1-quart ball jar. So I'm actually gonna just put half of this, and I'm gonna leave the rest of this because that will bring us up to 6 cups now. And we might need extra broth later. Now you can use a box broth, okay? But I talk so much about getting the mileage out of all your vegetables, right? You've already paid money for these vegetables. You might as well extend the value of them and make your own stock. Now, if that's just too overwhelming, don't do it, and buy some kind of really good box broth that is very low in sodium or no salt sodium, okay? And then I'm gonna put this rice in like that, and we're gonna pay attention to this thing the whole time. I'm just gonna put this bowl here, and we're gonna keep this over to the side. And when you're in a hurry for something to cook, you put the lid on so that it starts to at least boil. Okay, so let's get that, at least get a cover on it. And somewhere I put the cover. It's so close to me that I don't know that it's here. And we'll look at that again in a very few minutes and make sure that it's coming to a boil. I'll lower it a little bit. But again, we're trying to make the soup all in one full swoop today, and it usually takes about 50 minutes to cook. So let's work ourselves backwards a little bit now and talk about what we actually put in. So I talked about the parsnip looking like a carrot. And what you would do to prep this is that you're going to take off your ends, right? You're going to take off your ends and you're simply going to peel it. Now, I love roasted parsnips. That is one of my favorite things. You could literally roast beets, carrots, parsnips in the oven. That would be another wonderful thing to do. As soon as I see parsnips in the store, I'm like, because it's a fall thing. It's a fall thing. You see it also in the winter, but you don't see them all. You could probably see them all year round, depending on where you live. Okay,
Yeah.
so yes.
Quick question, just because you're right there on the parsnips. We had a question that in the recipe it says removing the core. You say something about removing the core of the parsnip.
Well, that person has to just be a little patient, and we're going to do that in a minute.
When you talked about just peeling it, that was me that jumped ahead. So I'm sorry.
It's okay. There's a lot of debate. I want to tell all of you this as I point with the parsnip. You know, if you read online, a lot of people say you don't have to deal with the core at all. That if you're making soup especially, that you could just use the whole thing and not think about the core, right? But I learned years ago, and I guess it's just a habit, and I think you could get away with not dealing with the core. The core is inside. It's like when you cut open a cabbage and there's a core, or there's a cauliflower when the each one is on the core, or fennel has a core. This has a core too. So what I usually do, and the core really runs up through the whole thing, but I usually cut off the top, and I'd say the part that's usually skinny. And there is core there, but that's usually not fibrous. And the reason that people cut out the core is that it can be a little teeny bit bitter, okay? Young parsnips, if you had young parsnips, and how would you know that they're young? They're probably not going to be the big 7-inch one that I have. They're going to be the smaller ones, and you'll need to have use a few more because you're not buying the big 7-inch ones. And like I said, I've read a lot online, and technically, you do not have to take out the core for soup, but it is a habit of mine. So inside here, and I don't think you can see this detail, there is a tiny little core, just like when I cut the apple open. So what I'm doing is the fat part, the very, very, very fat part, I'm cutting the bottom in half, right? The half is now, we have 4 pieces, and I'm just going to, and you can see the core. It actually has a line. You can actually see it. So I'm just taking my knife at an angle and just cutting that core out. And I end up with a little piece like that. And it's almost like if you were coring a pear, or you were coring an apple and you wanted to get the seeds out. It's the exact same idea, okay? So if you forget to take out the core, don't worry. We're putting it in the soup. Now, all of this beautiful parsnip garbage, right? The ends, the tips, the peels, the core will go into a pot. And early this morning, I'm just going to show you that I had a big soup pot like this, and I put in all my garbage. I put it into as I was prepping, I put in, and we talk about this a lot on this, in the demos that I do. I'm always encouraging everyone to make their own stock, right? With the basic things of carrots and celery and onions, right? And sometimes mushrooms or tomatoes. But sometimes I've told you that there's an alternative stock, right? An alternative stock means that you're actually making this stock for this soup. And you might as well do it because you're prepping everything and you have the things. So would this stock be okay for something else? Well, you could probably cook some rice in it or quinoa in it, but I don't know if I would put it in another soup, this stock, because it's going to have a very sweet flavor of parsnips. So again, this is something I learned years and years ago. Deborah Madison, if anybody follows her soup recipes, almost always she makes a very specific stock for the soup because that really gives the robust flavor of all the vegetables you're using. And it's also good usage, so you're not throwing things away. So
Another question, Carol. Would
yes.
the core of the parsnip in the stock make the stock bitter?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I guess, you know what? It's a good question, Wendy. And I guess I throw it in. And today it worked out fine. It was not bitter at all. So, but if you were in question of it for any reason, then just don't put it in. But I'm someone that just can't throw away anything. I'm like really. Now, I just want to finish with the stock so we don't get hung up on this because it's important for me to show you all the things. So in this pot will go the parsnip ends, will also the carrots, the tips, just like we peeled the parsnip, you're going to peel your carrots, you're going to top off the tips and the end, and the carrots are going to go in this. And then what else is going to go in this is part of the leek. And I just wanted to talk to you very much about leeks. Something that are very delicious, and some people just stay away from them because they don't know what to do with them. But they're quite delicious. If you didn't have leeks, you could use white, regular yellow onions. But there are times that I do use leeks in soup, which like in potato soup, they're a gentler tasting onion. But what I want to show you and what is important to me here is to show you is that the leek looks really good. It doesn't even look dirty. If you were to peel it, but where the dirt lies is all inside and you can't see that dirt. Oh, here you go. I'm just going to show you. Here's a big piece of dirt right here. Okay, can you see that? Okay, one doesn't know all of this until you peel things back. So what you want to do, and I want to show you this quickly, is how do you cut the leek, right? What do you do? So of course you wash it, and while I'm washing it, I kind of try to let the water run between the leaves as much as possible, but down inside, there's still some dirt. Okay, you might not see the dirt, but believe me, it's there. It's kind of like spinach. You have to wash it and wash it and wash it. Okay, so the end is going in here. We, for the soup, are just going to use this yellow whitish part, and this part is going to be for the stock. Now, if you could just see that it's filthy dirty. It just is, there is tons of dirt in there. So what I would do is take this to the sink and just give it a really good washing, rubbing it, you know, all watching that dirt go away, right? That dirt is hiding out. And I just give it a good washing. And then I give this a good chopping in half. And this also goes into the stock. Okay? Now let's just stir the soup because I hear it boiling. And I don't want that rice. Remember I mentioned to you that the rice is going to stick to the bottom. And I don't want it to stick to the bottom. Okay, so that is happening. That all looks awesome and good. Okay, back to the leek. So what are you going to do with the rest of the leek now? There is still sometimes dirt inside. So usually you can do one of two things. You can make little rings, right? By cutting this and just cutting it thin. I'm cutting it probably 1/8 of an inch. And basically you're getting these little rings, right? That's one way to cook it. Cut it, I mean. Then, or you could cut it in half and then and make it so that it's flat, which I always encourage you to do. And then cut it like that, right? And I can see here that there is dirt inside. So what you're going to want to do is you're just going to cut this. Doesn't have to be perfect cutting, okay? It's about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, right? And you're just going to break apart all those rings, right? So it looks like that. And then you're going to get a bowl. We can just get the same bowl that I had before. And you're going to give it a good bath. Similar to how you're going to wash spinach, right? You're going to give it just a rinsing. And you're going to make sure that you get all that dirt off. And I usually like to do that ahead of time. And I run my hands through the, kind of like when you're massaging kale, right? And I break up all those rings so that if there is any dirt hiding out, that it's all going to the bottom of the bowl. Okay, and then sometimes I just leave this for a little bit and just go to the next thing, and then eventually I strain it. And that's where we started the soup today, was straining the water and getting all, and this is dirty. So if it's super, super dirty, I just drain the water and then I put more water on it and give it another bath. Okay, sometimes you have to do that 2 or 3 times. So imagine that in this pot, what we have is the leeks, we have the carrots, we have the apples. Remember, we did the apples in the skin, right? Here are the apples in the skin. Cover it with water and then let it boil. And let it boil and then simmer, and you could cook it for an hour, hour and a half. There's no time limit of cooking it. And then what I did was I strained it. This is a mesh sieve. And I took all the vegetables and I put them in this mesh sieve. And then I took the back of my spoon and I drained, so I had drained it into a bowl. All the liquid came out. And then I pushed as hard as I can. And now I have this. And this is the cooked left garbagey vegetables, and this eventually goes to compost. Okay, so I've gotten a lot of mileage out of this, and I'm very happy about that. And I just wanted to show you that because we do talk a lot about stock all the time. So let's get all this out of the way. And Wendy, this would be a perfect moment if we had any kind of questions about the soup, because we're going to move to the very next thing. I can't seem to hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. The recipe says to put the broth into the pot at the start, but I noticed that Chef Carole added it to all the veggies, added it after all the veggies had cooked a bit first. So I'm wondering when to add the stock.
You can add it. I put a little bit in. It doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I'm so wanting to get the soup going that I just immediately just did it the way I naturally would. So it doesn't matter. The vegetables don't need to cook. They're cooking now. So if you put, I just like to get it all in there tossed. And then the reason I like putting the vegetables in all at once, right? And the spices all at once, and get everything tossed around in the curry powder to disperse the powder so it's not just clumped into one little area. This way it disperses. And then pour the broth, because then I can see where the volume is and what I need to cover. You know, rather than having the broth, so much broth, and then dropping in the vegetables. Either way is fine, and I would make it either way. I guess I prefer this way.
Great. And then can you use any kind of rice, or
I did mention that. I said that you could use any kind of rice. In the recipe, I say that I've used white rice. I tend to use white rice when I'm just throwing into soup like that. You could use brown rice, but I probably wouldn't do black rice or red rice because you're going to end up with colored dots. Maybe you want colored dots. I don't know, but I want it to be like this really beautiful golden yellow with just smooth. And this rice is an amazing way of making it silky and velvety. And a potato would do that too, a white potato. Like any kind of potato, an Idaho potato, a red, a Yukon Gold. But I do like the way the rice kind of smooths it all out. And it's my way of like not adding cream.
Right. And I know you are not a big fan of the Instant Pot, but the question was, do you ever do your stock in an Instant Pot?
Well, I don't own, okay, so you are right, Wendy, about uncovering the truth of my not loving an Instapot. I love that all of you have an Instapot, because if it saves you time, then I encourage you to do whatever saves you time, right? I can't seem to use one. Every time I put one in front of me, something goes wrong. So I don't own one, but of course you could make stock in an Instapot, and if that's your tool and that's what you love and that makes you eat your beans and eat your vegetables, then go for it. I'm just too much of a old a person that loves heat and cooking. And so I don't understand the Instapot. But I encourage everyone, if that's their way of getting things done and it's fast and it works, then do it.
Beautiful. Ready to move on.
Okay, so I probably should just rinse the cutting board because it's always good to do that. The soup is boiling like crazy. I'm not sure that I would really have it boiling like crazy, but because we're, trying to cook something, and I'm just making sure every few minutes that the rice is not sticking, and it's not, right? And it looks really good. The soup is cooking just really well. I'm gonna lower it just a little bit because I can see that it's cooking so fast. And it's so close to me that it kind of like I can just, I don't know, just feels intense, bubbling, right? Usually when something's bubbling on the stove, you're not like standing like right there on top of it. So let's go to the next thing, which is such a simple thing, but you all might be just like saying, wow. And you might also be daunted by it because it does require a specific piece of equipment for the kitchen. And Wendy's going to put the link up, but we are going to spiralize. We are going to use this really wonderful thing that I have here, which is called a spiralizer. And this one is a small one. I bought it when I was living in Manhattan and didn't have room to have big things. But most spiralizers often are long and wide, and you literally put something on a spindle and you turn it and spiralize. This particular little gadget is made by a company called Ben Rinner, Benriner, and I think it's probably $35 is what I'm guessing it is. I haven't bought it in a long time. Comes with 3 blades, really easy to clean, really easy to handle, and I love it so, and I love it that it's vertical. So we're going to make spiralized beets, and you don't own one of these. There are options. What are your options? I know Whole Foods. I don't know if Trader Joe's does. I haven't shopped in Trader Joe's in a while, but a lot of times in the vegetable section, already in containers, are spiralized butternut squash, spiralized zucchini, spiralized beets. So look in your vegetable section in the grocery store to see if you can avoid spiralizing. Another option, and I didn't get it out of my drawer, is a peeler. It doesn't look like this. It's actually a different kind of peeler. But it actually, when you run your peeler over things, it actually makes things into lines. And let me just see if I can find mine, because I should have taken it out. Here it is. It's one of these. It looks like this. And it has lots of teeth. And it has the same teeth that are here. And when I didn't have one of these, and I wanted to have like spiralized carrots or spiralized cucumbers, for many years, I just used one of these hand. And it has lots and lots of teeth here. Sharp, sharp, so be careful. So let's just talk about what this beet salad is. Something I just created because I love these beets that are called Chioggia beets. Chioggia beets are Italian beets from like 1840, like a really long time ago. And sometimes these beets, people don't even know when you say Chioggia, what is a Chioggia beet? But lots of people, even at a farmer's market, sometimes someone will say, I want the candy stripe beets. Okay, and what does that mean, the candy stripe beets? It means that, look how beautiful. It's like looking at concentric red and white circles. Can everyone see that? It's so beautiful. And when you spiralize it, it's like red and white and it's beautiful. And it'd be the perfect Valentine's meal to make red beets. And today, what I ended up doing for this particular thing, because rather than buy a big bunch of beets, because that's usually what I do because I love the greens and the tops so much. Sometimes I love that more than I love the beets. But today I bought a bunch of loose beets. So how do you know that you have a Chioggia beet? It actually is a little pinkish, little, I would say the outside is like a fuchsia color compared to a regular beet, a red beet, which is really dark and red. Now, I don't think the camera's gonna pick up on that, but I will show you very quickly that, let me just cut this and show you. And these are washed, and we're gonna eat these raw, okay? And I'm gonna just cut off the top and the bottom. Now you see the bottom here is totally white, and look at the red. You see white and red. It's hard to know exactly the pattern. And then here would be a red one, and I'm just gonna cut off the top and the bottom. And again, I always have some kind of bowl close by. I need to look at the recipe, make sure that I don't forget to tell you anything about it. But basically I have a bowl, and I always put the remaining bits into a bowl. So we're going to peel these. We're only going to peel this one beautiful Chioggia beet. I'm going to get a peeler, and I'm going to just peel it. And it is, I love these beets, and I love them roasted. They always keep their color. They're not like beans. Sometimes you have beautiful beans like cranberry beans that are red and white, and then the minute you cook them, they just become pink. Well, no, Chioggia beets actually keep their color. Just like, you know, sometimes you have green beans that are purple, and then you cook them and they become green. No, but the beautiful thing about a Chioggia is it stays its true self the whole time. Never tries to become another color. And I love that. So here we go. I'm going to use a little cutting board here, and I'm just going to show you what we're going to do. So this goes up, and this has a little spike on it, and the blade is right there. And I'm just going to put this on there, put this down, and literally start turning. And we get this incredible. And we're using, this is a raw beet. You saw that I didn't cook it. It's so thin. We're going to put like a lemon dressing on it. So it's going to, the lemon kind of cooks it a little bit because of the acid, kind of like ceviche. And you can eat raw beets. So then at a certain point, you can't spin anymore. And you end up with a little top, a little end. You have to be careful because this is sharp. And look at this. Look at that. Look how beautiful. Can you see how beautiful all that is? I love it so much. Okay, it's fun to have, and it's an investment. And you might say, I don't ever gonna do that. But what's great about it is you could do zucchini noodles and forget the pasta, right? If you're watching your weight and you want to add nutrition to your meals, just forget the cooking the pasta and make zucchini noodles. And in the summer, make cucumber spirals and make a great tomato and basil salad. So it has use. It's a little eccentric. I know most of you probably don't have one, but I have to show it to you. That is my role, is to show you new things. So here's this. This is definitely not going into the garbage. This can go into the smoothie in the morning, okay? This is sweet, delicious, and just will get all pureed and done. Okay, so that is that. I'm gonna move this away. And we're gonna so in this bowl right this very second, I have a golden beet. Look at that. Here is a beautiful golden beet. I literally have 3 beets here. Okay, 3, that's all. That makes a lot. And I'm just one person, but I could eat all of this. I couldn't stop eating it. So the one thing you want to do, similar to often that you do with spaghetti, when it's long, you break it in half, right? So I usually just take a knife and give it a chopping, like 3 chops, right? And then that will go into the bowl. And that way, when someone's eating, they're not like pulling, you know, you're not seeing a whole line of beets trailing from their mouth, and they can manage. And I'm just going to cut these beets into what I'm just calling it thirds. You can see there are times that I definitely miss, and there are some long bits, but you do want to just get those bits. See, there are going to be some long bits. Okay, and then we'd have to do that to the yellow ones as well. And now, wouldn't it be fun to use the red beet, the golden beet, and the Chioggia beet? But for demo, I just wanted to show you how beautiful the Chioggia beet was. Now the next, so all of this is going to go away. We're just going to move that out of our way. And we're going to make a very simple dressing. So what's going to go on this particular thing? I'm now going to add these beautiful pea shoots. Okay, and I think we've discussed pea shoots before. You can get them at the farmer's market. If you don't have a farmer's market, I'm sure that if you go to a nice grocery store, that they have in the area that called microgreens. And look to see if they have pea shoots, because pea shoots look like this. I just want to show you. They're just a green, and you can cook them or you can eat them raw. They're delicious. They taste like peas, and I absolutely love them and eat them all the time. They're like my favorite thing to eat. And if you can't find pea shoots, right, this is something new and you just don't see them and you want to make this salad, don't say I can't make it. Just buy some regular microgreens, right? Microgreens can be sometimes radish greens, can be broccoli greens. I've actually been growing my own little microgreens in a little tray. I'm just going to show you. You see, you can just grow your own. So those are always, you can almost always find some kind of microgreen. So similar to the beets, rather than having them long, I just give them a little chop, okay? Just one chop or so. How many do I'm putting in almost 2 cups. The amount of greens is really up to you, but I try to do a lot. And last time I made the same amount of salad just for myself, all for just myself. And I ate it all. I didn't eat it all. I had to eat it over a course of almost 3 days. And this salad was so good on top of other salad. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but let me just remove this. And we're going to make the dressing, which is super simple. And I wrote something out for you, and I better look at it so I know what I'm doing, because I sometimes just do things without like reading. What I have done in this bowl to make this dressing is we're going to use Dijon mustard, and I have 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and I have 1 tablespoon of date paste. So as you know, dressings usually have some kind of tangy something, which is the vinegar, which we're using as the mustard. We usually have some kind of sweetener. We're using the date paste. And then we're going to use a nice thing of zest from this lemon and lemon juice. And this dressing is not going to have any fat in it. And if it needed fat or wanted fat, you could grind up some nuts or something. That would be one way of making fat. You can also, we'll learn that you can also substitute avocado for fat. Or even sometimes some cannelli beans would also be it's not a fat, but it would add some kind of creaminess. So I have 2 kinds of lemons here. You can't see the difference in either one of these lemons because it's just impossible to see on the screen. But one is a beautiful, beautiful yellow, and one is another kind of yellow. And this is a Myers lemon. And I was lucky enough that someone gave me 4 Myers lemons yesterday from California. Literally, a friend of mine's sister sent lemons to her, and she was kind enough to share these lemons. And anytime you're able to use a Myers lemon in dressing, it's wonderful because it's just a little sweeter and a little less acidic. Okay, I'm just going to, the soup is cooking away, which is good. I'm going to lower it again because it's just boiling like crazy. We're going to make just a little teeny bit of zest. There are 2 ways that I actually make zest. Let me just move this cutting board. This is the old-fashioned way, when this is a washed lemon, and we only need 1 teaspoon of zest. And I'm going to put the rest of the zest. Oh my gosh, if you could, this is like the parsnip that I wish I could share the smell with you. The smell is divine on a Myers lemon. And so I find them often in Trader Joe's. So if you see them, I encourage you to buy them. So I'm going to save this. This is just going to go. I'll put some of the rest of it over here. And we just need a teaspoon chopped. And the thing about using an old-fashioned kind of zester like that is you actually have to take a knife. It's not like using a microplane when it's already comes off grated. But you have to give it your own chopping, which is fine. This is the way I used to do it all the time before they had microplanes. So this is often my way of doing things. So we just need like a teaspoon. And I just looking at it here, and I think it's exactly a teaspoon. Doesn't have to be exact. The other lemon can be saved for another day. Could go into your rice, could go into your oatmeal. There's so many things to do with the zest of a lemon. So I'm going to put this now right into the bowl with the date paste. And then we're going to squeeze this lovely lemon. Oh my gosh, it has got a lot of seeds, but I wish, again, that I could just share that with you. Now, technically, I say that we need to use, use juice from 1 lemon. Okay, so let's get out the juicer, and we'll just have this. I love this tool. It's going to catch the seeds. It has a way of catching the seeds, and that's going to go in there. And this is our dressing. Now, I don't throw this out. This I use to clean my cutting board, actually. Sometimes I throw that into a glass of water or a glass of tea. It's still really lemony and still really delicious. And I also clean my copper pots with salt in that. And I just heard a seed go into there. That very second that I literally was talking, I heard the seed go into there. And you just have to get it out. You don't want that. So now this just gets mixed, this dressing. Lots of lemon, no garlic. So 3 things: sweetener, date paste. Now, if you don't have any date paste, or you didn't watch the bite-sized demo from the other day when we learned how to make date paste, I encourage all of you to make it. I always have a jar like this of date paste in my refrigerator. It's my go-to sweetener instead of maple syrup. Now, you could use maple syrup as your sweetener. That's okay, but even maple syrup is a little bit processed, right? So this comes from the whole date and just making a puree out of the whole date. So no processing except for what I do on my own. And that's the best thing to use. And having that sweetener in the refrigerator, and we talk about that, all the go-to things that are nice to have, so you don't have to, start making date paste the minute you're making a salad. So I'm going to get a little spoon really quickly here and just give this a taste, just to see if it needs adjusting, and it does not. You're getting rid of that spoon. And then I'm going to pour almost all of this on. Yeah, I'm going to pour it all on. And that is going to be our salad. Now, we're going to give it a good mixing with our hands. Get this all tossed like this. It might be the most beautiful looking salad ever because it has just all this color. Now, you could, I don't do it in here, this recipe, but I encourage you, you could put black sesame seeds to decorate it. You could add pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds. You're welcome to do that. You could even add a few chopped walnuts if that's something you want. But I've been really conscious of staying away from, at the beginning of the year, I think about not using so many nuts. So this is this salad, and I, of course, have to taste it, right? You're going to taste it. It is so delicious. Now, what are you going to do with this amount of salad for an entire 4 days? Well, the first day, you're going to just eat this, like this. Tomorrow, maybe you're going to boil some white potatoes and cut up the potatoes and make another kind of salad. There was one day that I actually had made green salad, and then I wanted to add things to it. So I actually put a handful of this on top of green salad. I cut an avocado. I cut up a few tomatoes, and I actually put a few green peas to add more peas. And this became another salad. So this is the base of a delicious salad. I'm going to rinse my hands before I get our presentation plate. And we're going to plate that. And Wendy, in a second, we will ask any questions, but we're just going to plate this so you can see how beautiful. Of course, you can see it's like a bird's nest, right? It's so exquisitely beautiful. This is 3 beets. And honestly, I would eat all of this myself practically, not at one time, but over a course of several days, I would eat this.
It is stunningly beautiful.
So this is, I know that you like seeing things close up, so I'm just going to show you what that looks like. And again, a few seeds are perfectly fine. And I do want you just to remember how you can change it up, right, throughout the week. This salad is a base to kind of like multiply and become various things, and super fast, super easy, and no fat in it. And only if you add the avocado on another day would you be adding fat to your salad. So what do you think of that, Wendy? Does it look great?
I think it looks exquisite. Yeah, very appetizing. I'm going to make it here. I actually have beets and pea shoots in my refrigerator.
You do?
What I
real?
do. I know.
Oh my God, it's awesome. That's so great. That is so great.
Been so
I'm glad to know that you have the pea shoots, you know, because I buy them all the time and I never know what people have access to, and it's good for me to know that you have access to pea shoots.
Quick questions that have come in. How do you store your lemon zest, and do you store your lemon zest?
I do all the time. I store it all the time, and I just put it in an airtight container. Sometimes it's a jar, sometimes it's a little tiny plastic container, but I literally, sometimes I have it all chopped up. There are times that I have just literally left it on a plate on the counter, and then tomorrow morning, I'm like, oh darn, I forgot to put it away, and it's all dried up. But it's fine. It's just dried up zest. I mean, it's literally, if you looked in the grocery store in the spice section, it will say you could buy a jar of lemon peel, and it is zest, right? So drying it out is just fine. I just put it in the fridge, and then I immediately, it just goes in a minute. Whether it goes into rice, like I said, oatmeal, it is kind of my substitute for trying to bring, it's a way of bringing up the flavor without the added salt.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Any other questions before we move to the chimichurri?
There are at least 2 more. Can you add this salad, the beet salad, to a stir fry on another day?
Can you eat it another day?
Can you add the beet salad to a stir fry on another day? Would you stir fry it?
Sure, you could definitely. I think it's up to you to kind of reinvent the thing. I'm not kidding you. I made a real salad the other day, like greens, radicchio, and I was making salad like as if I were just gonna. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I've got that beet, and then I said I'm just gonna add that as just if I was gonna add something else, and it was out of this world delicious. So I think you could stir fry it. It would be really quick because it's going to cook really quick because those beets are going to collapse. They're not going to hold their beautiful sculptured form. Once you start cooking it, it's going to all collapse. But it will be delicious.
Excellent. And then finally...
And you could do it with the dressing on it, you know, like after you've already made the salad.
Yes, exactly. And of course, you know, you've just done this here, but can you eat beets raw? And any thoughts on raw versus cooked?
I just, you know, it's funny you asked this, Wendy. I don't know how you know to ask this, or somebody just knows to ask this, but I literally have on my kitchen table a whole cookbook that I borrowed off a friend's shelf that was by Matthew Kinney, and it's all about raw foods. And yes, absolutely, you can eat it raw. I don't do so much. There's some people that just eat only raw things, and that's what their choice of doing that. I think it's fine. There's a number of things I like raw. Beets is one of them. So that's my answer is if that's what floats your boat, I guess if that's what you like, then do that.
Excellent. I think we're ready to move on. There was just a question you covered that we can use any kind of beets, and I'm just very
any kind of beets, any kind. I mean, there aren't so many, but you know, like we use the red and the golden beets, right? And it's easier to buy those individually without the tops, right? So that's what I did this time but usually I like buying it with the tops.
Excellent. And then another question, do you wash your veggies with a veggie wash? Or do
I
you
don't
just
actually,
soak
but
them
if
to
those people that feel they need to do that, I encourage them. That's fine. You know, we all do things that are different, and there is a wash, a vinegar wash that you could use, and if that's what you feel makes you comfortable, then do that. But I've never done that. I do scrub vegetables, and because I use the whole vegetable, and especially if I'm eating the skin, right? The lemon I really washed if I'm eating the skin. I really washed those beets. They were dirty. And you can see that I just gave the leeks 2 baths of you know, 2 washings.
Great. I think we're ready to move on.
Okay, so let's move on, and because time runs out before you know it, and we have to puree the soup. The soup is cooking away. I'm very happy with it. It is cooking. I'm kind of lowering it. I think that it's nearly done, but I do want to make the chimichurri. And chimichurri is a wonderful, as I mentioned, it can be green or red. It is a sauce that originated in Argentina or Uruguay. I'm sure that other people would claim it as their own, but that is how I've always known it. This is a sauce that I used to use in my past meat eating life, which my meat eating life was, I don't know, over 30 years ago. My fish eating life wasn't so long ago. And it was a wonderful sauce for fish and meat. But it is also a wonderful sauce for vegetables. And I want to introduce it to all of you. It's a raw sauce, right? Again, we're back to raw. We're not cooking the sauce. And it's made primarily of herbs. And cilantro, sometimes people just use, there's so many variations on chimichurri, but the combination is usually cilantro and parsley. There are recipes that are just parsley. There are recipes that are just cilantro. But today we're using both because why not? And I like both. And I'm just going to look for my cutting board, which is here in the sink. And we are going to make the sauce. Now, the other reason that I haven't had this sauce in my own life for a long time was because I always think of chimichurri sauce a little bit like pesto, which pesto I make all the time and somehow got over it. But chimichurri is one of those things that has anywhere from a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of olive oil in it. It is really herbs floating in olive oil. Okay, and we're not cooking with any oil now. And so I had to think about what is the best way to make chimichurri without using those things. So first, let's just immediately get our, I'm going to find the measuring cup because everyone likes to see that I measure, even though I almost, you know, I measure with my eyes most of the time. So this recipe is going to call for like a 1/2 cup. I made it simple. Sometimes it's proportionately not always equal the amount of parsley to cilantro, but I made it equal. You can use some of the stems, it's fine. There's nothing is wrong here, okay? You cannot go wrong with this chimichurri. Okay, so if you use more cilantro than parsley, it is okay. I give people recipes because they want the security and the guidance, and there's nothing wrong with that. I too like a recipe, but at some point, one has to decide that they're going to, you know, be confident, and you get your confidence, and you just end up just making it just the way you look at the recipe as though it's a guide, and then you just do it. And that comes over time and with confidence. So I think that's my 1/2 cup. Let's just see. We're going to just get that packed in. This happens to be Italian flat leaf parsley. I love it the most. There is curly parsley. Could you use curly parsley? Of course. I think flat leaf parsley tastes better. That is my personal opinion. Okay? So basically now we have equal amounts. You saw that I had a 1/2 cup of parsley. And we're going to start to add all the other ingredients. And let's just do this in the order that I have it written so that I don't forget. So a shallot. And what is a shallot? A shallot is a small little tiny onion. Very, very mild. much like a leek in the sense that it's mild. It's not, the shallot is almost never going to have strong, make you cry kind of thing. Often there are 2 bulbs, and I used 1 bulb. So basically, how much did I use? I would say approximately 1/3 of a cup of shallots. Now, if you don't have any shallots, I say that it's okay to use 2 scallions. Okay, just some kind of onion, and probably not raw yellow onion. Okay, that's that. Then we need to have 3 to 4 garlic cloves, right? We're going to skip, and I've already peeled those, and I'm literally just putting them in like that. We're going to need 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. That's going in there just like that. I'm actually using lime juice in here as well because we're not pouring in so much liquid. I decided that it was nice to put at least a tablespoon of lime juice. Often chimichurri doesn't have lime juice. Sometimes it has a lemon juice, but I thought a lime juice was really nice, and I squeezed a little more because in case we just need to make adjustments. I'm putting in 1 teaspoon of oregano, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and I've skipped over the best part, which is the hot part, okay? And we're not going to make it so spicy, but it does need some kind of kick to it, okay? It definitely needs, and I say here to use 1 red chili. Now, there are so many kinds of chilies, and everybody's gonna have access to different things. And I just want to show you, and it's okay. Here's a jalapeno, and here is a jalapeno, and look at the size difference. So if I were to say in the recipe, use 1 jalapeno, and you ended up buying this, I would probably just use half of this because this is a gigantic one. This is kind of more of a normal size. And then there's a serrano chili, actually, which is smaller and skinnier. And that also is really good to use if you don't have a red chili. And then these are beautiful chilies. These are called habaneros. And they have their own taste and special and are often very different than these. And I thought we would just use 1 habanero today. And I don't say that in the recipe about a habanero, but I have access to habaneros, and they're so beautiful and I don't get to use them very often. So I am literally just taking them just like a pepper. I literally am de-seeding it, and it's these seeds that are loaded with heat. And because I'm not familiar with how spicy this habanero is, I'm probably just going to use, I'm going to leave a little bit behind. I'm probably going to use like a half of habanero. And I'm just going to cut it, and we'll taste for flavor. We'll see if we need that extra little bit. Now, my thought on replacing the gazillion amount of oil that you dump in here is that you can do one of 2 things. And I say this in the recipe. Either you have to get some fat in here because the fat is what's going to hold it together. So you can either use an avocado, and I suggest just using like a 1/4 of an avocado. Maybe you want to use a half if it's a small avocado and you want it extra creamy. Or what I am using instead, and I see a little bit of beets in is I'm just using some pumpkin seeds. You can see the pumpkin seeds, and I'm using 2 tablespoons. I'm not bothering to soak them. You could maybe soak them. That's an idea that I thought of while prepping today. To make them so that they break down. But this is all that's going into this, okay? And we're gonna get this onto the Cuisinart. And you could make it in a NutriBullet if you wanted. And we're just going to puree that. Now, if I find that it's getting stuck at the bottom, we're going to mix it up. And if it needs a little more liquid, I'm going to put a little more lime juice. And that's going to be the sauce. And let's just get that going. Now, of course, I just want to show you can't see this from here, and I'm not going to take it off, but when you're pureeing something, it all gets built up around the walls of the Cuisinart bowl. So you do need to scrape it down, and you have to get back in and get so that everything is at the bottom and it's not hugging the walls. And at this point, I see that there's not enough liquid because it's just all green puree, but I'm going to taste it. I just want to taste it. Okay, well, it's definitely not getting any more of this pepper because it's hot and spicy. Definitely not getting that. I'm going to add a little bit of lime juice, just a little bit. And I'm going to add just a little bit of water, just a tad. And that's my own, just, again, I can't give you how much, just saying you just want it to be coming a smooth paste. And it's looking quite delicious. There's so much of it on my lid. I just want to remove that. And you can see that it's like this. It looks like this. Okay, it's all beautiful. If you want it to, again, to be a little more creamy or have a little more liquid, I'm going to add just a little more liquid to it. Again, it can add a little water, you can add a little vinegar. And we could, at this point, even though you've added the pumpkin seed, you could add a little bit of avocado. That would be fine. But I'm just going to add that. I like it smooth, a little bit smooth. We'll move this. See, now it's finally spinning and it's really making it sauce now by adding that little bit of water. You can even add a little bit of stock if you have it. Okay, so that's it. That is pretty much our sauce. Now, this sauce can stay in a container. Of course, it's the most delicious when you eat it right away. But we're not going to eat all of this right away. This is going to be our garnish for the soup today. And it's so delicious in the soup. And I want to tell you, during the week, I've been eating this, and I added a teeny bit of tahini to it and kind of made another kind of little sauce. I don't know what I would call it, chimichurri tahini, but I added just a teeny bit of tahini, and it made a lovely dressing for a salad. This would be also very delicious on any kind of potatoes, broccoli. You could toss a whole salad in chimichurri. So this is, and I would put it in an airtight container. That's really how I would store it. But this is our chimichurri already done. And all we have left to do is to puree the soup. But look, it makes almost, I would say, a good half a cup here. And that's our chimichurri. Wendy, are there any questions from our little lesson of our healthy chimichurri?
That chimichurri just looks so colorful. I love how bright the green is from all the herbs.
I mean, you can think about it like a pesto, only without the basil, right? And it has different herbs in it. It has oregano. It has, and what it's missing and what we normally, like I said, it normally would be floating in olive oil. But we've come up with a solution, which is either putting some other kind of fat in it. And it could be, I like the pumpkin seed in it very much. Mm-hmm. If you had walnuts, I think you could use cashews. Anything to add that fat to it, to give it that creaminess would be fine. And you could also, like I said, why not add a little bit of avocado? Not a lot, but just a little bit to get it so that it's that creamy thing. And the tahini, the next day, you take a little bit of this and you take a little bit of tahini and you put a little water and you make a nice dressing for a salad, right? So you always think about, how am I going to use all that up? I mean, I used most of mine in the soup every day that I ate the soup. So this was garnish for the soup nearly the whole time I ate the pot of soup. But of course, I put it on sweet potatoes. It was delicious. I put it on black beans. It was delicious. So you have to think about what do you want in your refrigerator that's going to make things added flavor for very little effort. It's another sauce for the refrigerator to just have so that you can make your week a little more interesting.
Exactly. Two questions. One about substitutes. Some people are not having nuts, but they are having the fat that encourages the omega-3s, like hemp seeds.
Oh, yes, you
Might
could
you
definitely use hemp seeds. That's
Yeah,
a great idea.
excellent. And then I think you mentioned you could even add a bit of salt, but would you have miso, any amount of miso
Oh,
instead
I
of
think
the
that would
salt?
work too, actually. Yes, I do. I do. I think miso is a good. That too would add its. That would add its a thickener as
Yeah,
well as giving it its little salt flavor. I
yeah,
think that's an excellent idea.
great. And two more things. One, you have, first of all, you're getting rave reviews in the comments, just letting you know. People are
Okay.
loving the show and the color, how colorful everything is. You have a very concerned listener saying, please be careful, do not touch your eyes or anything after handling that habanero pepper.
This
Somebody has had experience.
This is really true. And usually when I go over cutting a jalapeno very carefully and I tell people either to put a glove on. I sometimes say if you don't have a glove, I say put your hand in a plastic bag. Any kind of plastic bag. A Ziploc bag, a vegetable plastic bag that you've gotten from the store. Just cover your hands and then take out the seeds, right? That's usually what I show. Or I say cut the jalapeno in half and then take a spoon and take out the seeds and push them away so you're not touching. But I was very, very careful, and whoever that person is absolutely right. You absolutely do not want to touch your eyes, touch your nose, touch it, because your fingers if you are handling those seeds, you now have them inside the oils of your finger. And so you have to be careful and wash your hands very well, and like I said, easy to wear a glove.
Right, exactly. And then you have a question about the machine. What brand or model number food processor do you recommend to purchase to make all these delicious, healthy sauces? I think there are a few beginners here too, so anything you might recommend?
Well, I'm actually working with a really close friend of mine right now, and I'm trying to help him stock his kitchen. And what I have learned is, some of my equipment is old, and I've been told that Cuisinart, I love the processor of the Cuisinart, but they're not making them as good as they used to. It's one of the reasons why I need a new immersion blender, and I'm not buying a new one because I'm afraid that it's not going to be as good as the one that I have. And I've seen how the quality of some things have gone down. So I have a Cuisinart. Mine is a 7-cup Cuisinart. I know that they make a similar model with a square base that is a 14-cup. And I don't have a model number just offhand, but I've always used a Cuisinart as a processor, and I don't know, maybe someone could put in the chat if they're using another kind of processor and they love it, maybe just add it to the chat. I'm sure that there are other kinds of, what I like about first of all, I've used the Cuisinart since I was in college. It comes with several blades, a grating blade, a slicing blade, 3 blades it comes with, and the S blade and the dough hook. So I do love it. But I'm sorry I don't have a model number to refer to.
Oh, fine. Cuisinart tends to be what many people use, and I'm sure you can do also some of your own research in finding something that you like. All right, Carole, we're ready.
And Wendy, you use a Cuisinart. I know that, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I have carefully, I will tell you that I love putting this soup into my Vitamix. I am not a person that loves moving hot soup into another container, whether it's the Cuisinart or into the Vitamix. I don't love doing it because I'm always in a hurry to eat. I don't like transferring hot liquid. It's not my thing. So I use one of these things called an immersion blender, which I just told you recently I actually burned a little bit of the cord on the stovetop there. So I actually now need a new one, but I'm reluctant to getting one. If you have the time and you are able to, what I usually like to do with this soup is I like putting it into the Vitamix or a blender, really pureeing it super hard, and then I take the mesh sieve, the same thing that I show you again, another mesh sieve. But I take a mesh sieve, and I actually like pushing the soup through this and getting, so there's no little bits of particles. That's an extra step that you might not be willing to do, and you certainly don't have to do it. It just makes a soup really, really creamy, okay? But we're gonna take this soup, and we're not gonna use the Vitamix, even though I did take the Vitamix out. We're gonna carefully, I think the soup needs a little more liquid, a lot of it boiled away, and we're going to be very careful here, and I'm gonna try not to talk. And we're gonna see if I can get this puree enough. Now, if you don't want it super, if you like to have texture, then definitely keep it chunky a little bit. But I'm just going to give this a few minutes. This takes a while to break everything down. And oh, we're only at number 2. Now, most of the time, if I wasn't doing this in front of a camera, I would actually be having this soup pot on the stove. Takes a minute. Pardon? I try not to talk during the noisy part. See, so this takes a few minutes, so it probably is about equal time. If you were to take the hot soup and put it into your Vitamix or your blender, mix it all up, and then pour it back in, because you'd have to do it into several batches, right? Or you have to sit here and be patient and break down all those. That's where you really want the parsnips and the carrots to be cooked. And I see that this soup is very thick, and it needs a little more liquid. So I'm just going to give that will help it puree. And I like this soup really smooth. I can see just a few little chunks. I know this is quite boring to watch this, but I wanted you to see. And it's just a little more liquid. Again, the reason you need more liquid, then I said 6 to 8 cups. We put 6. And if I ended up using all this, we would have 8 cups of broth. It's getting there. Oops, I just let some of it fly out. Okay, so I'm going to stop there so that you don't have to all watch me blend soup. I'm going to unplug this very carefully, actually. I'm going to put this, there's still a few bits in it, just a very few, but it's okay. We're going to just stand this up. I usually immediately take this out. So in other words, I just take this off so that this can lay itself down. Of course, I spilled a little bit of the soup on my counter, which I don't, I've made a mess, but it's sometimes hard not to make a mess. We're going to move this over like that. Again, it's up to you about how smooth you want the soup. And we're just going to look for the ladle, which could be so close to me that I don't know. It is so close to me. And this is the soup. And we're going to taste it before we plate it. And I'm just going to get I see that the counter is wet. And we're going to just get this removed, get the knife out of here so it's safe and doesn't fall off. and we're going to get a clean spoon, right? You're never going to double dip. What is double dipping? It means that you taste the soup once, and then you put the spoon back in, which you never want to do. So please be conscientious of that. No double dipping, okay? And this has a little bit more texture than I prefer, but that's okay. I can puree it more later. Oh my God, it is perfect. It's perfect. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't need salt. It doesn't need pepper. It is parsnip, apple, curry. You can taste all of it. It is so delicious. So again, you see I'm rinsing the spoon. If I were to have to go back in there, at least the spoon will have been rinsed. And now we're going to get a nice bowl for this. I'm just going to get a bowl. We're going to serve this up. We're going to put a big ladle full. A normal portion of soup, just if anyone wants to know, is 12 ounces. So that's, a ladle is 8 ounces. So it'd be a ladle and a half, right? That's 12 ounces is what a portion of soup is. Okay, and then I don't want to put this spoon in. I'm going to get another little spoon. And I'm just literally, you can plop this in. You can make little dots like I have in the recipe. It's up to you. I'm just going to put a big chunk of that in because it's going to be delicious. And that is going to go like that. And then you could actually mix it all around in a little pattern if you want, just so that it's all. And that soup is ready, garnished, beautiful. It's looks like this. If any, it's hard to show soup because you don't want it to spill, but that's what the soup looks like. I remember serving this soup to a friend last week, and he said, "Can I have some more of that green stuff?" Like he had eaten half the bowl, and he goes, "Can I have some more of the green stuff?" And I'm like, absolutely. So don't be afraid to put more chimichurri in there after. Just maybe when you're serving it, bring the whole chimichurri to the table and let people put the amount that they want. So it's nice to get the soup garnished. And of course I made a little bit of cornbread. So I have a little bit of cornbread, and of course I would give you a piece, or maybe I would even give you 2 pieces of cornbread to eat with that soup. And then you're going to eat the soup, and you're going to have the salad, and you're going to have your cornbread. And that's it today. I'm done, Wendy. That's everything for the day.
Carole, it looks absolutely scrumptious. I mean, it's dinner time here in New York, and I'm ready to dive right through the camera. And, you know, for those people who are new or transitioning to this lifestyle, I just wanted to call attention to this is what it means to eat the rainbow. Again, you know, the yellow and oranges and reds and greens, and then you've got that gorgeous blue pot. And the cornbread, it looks like it's made with the purple corn.
Yes, Wendy, I'm really into the purple corn.
So let me just see. I thought I saw a question about the cornbread. We probably don't have time to go into that, but maybe another time Carole will show us the cornbread. But I believe she used the purple.
I do, and Wendy, I do have a cornbread, I think, on my website. And then also it's substituting, if anyone wants to know, yellow corn for purple corn meal. That's all. It's just a swap out, and it's made with oat flour and cornmeal. But there is a recipe on my website, and we'll leave it at that.
I've made the cornmeal on Carole's website. It's delicious. Carole, you're getting all kinds of comments. Fantastic. Thanks for all. Incredible from a person who's just starting cooking. Very appreciative how accessible you are. Yeah, people are saying everything looks delicious. So really awesome and quite beautiful. So hang out with us just for a few more minutes. I have some announcements for you. Let's see if I can get them here. So there is still time till midnight tonight to join Plant Powered Metro New York for our 21-day jumpstart. We don't do these very often, but we're starting to increase the amount of times we're doing them. But we start this coming Wednesday, the 26th, with an orientation, and then I think 3 or 4 Sundays from at 3 for our 21-day jumpstart. And what that is really an immersive experience into whole food, plant-based eating and lifestyle. So there's a lot of uh, information. There are cooking demos. There is group support. There is mentoring for anybody who is struggling or who's on the fence or tried it once and didn't work and wants to come back, or somebody who just wants to join us and listen. You can register through tonight for the 21-day jumpstart. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Wednesday, February 2nd, we are partnering again with the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. We have one of the most distinguished doctors in the plant-based movement, Dr. Esselstyn, and he's bringing his family, the Esselstyn Family Foundation, to teach 4 classes on fortifying your heart health with food. Again, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Esselstyn is one of the giants and perhaps one of the most highly esteemed pioneers in the plant-based movement, really an honorable leader in the science and the practice. And you can sign up on the Plant Powered Metro New York website, or you can sign up through the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. So please join us for that 4-part series. And then a real treat, we have a screening on Monday, February 7th of a film called Plant-Wise. There'll be a Q&A afterwards with the filmmakers. It's a free event, and you can sign up also for, register on the Plant Powered Metro New York website. And of course, for any of our free events, because we do a lot in other communities, donations are always happily accepted. But you can come and just join us and enjoy the movie. And then a real treat, we are partnering again in the springtime with the JCC Manhattan, and with a little bit more access to our Chef Carole, we're doing a 4-week series called the Food for Life series, which is actually a what's it called? The curriculum that was developed by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And Carole will be teaching. It'll be a little bit more of a classroom setting. You'll probably have a little bit more access to asking questions. And so that will start on March 10th and run on Wednesdays in March. And again, sponsored with the JCC Manhattan. So our next demo with Chef Carole is going to be Sunday, February 13th, same time, same place. And then, as always, Carole can be reached at carole@thevegievanguard.com, or you can follow her pictures and her posts and write back on Instagram. It's at the Veggie Vanguard. So please join us for all kinds of events. There are other events on the PPMNY calendar. We have a nutrition roundtable. We have meetups online. We have potlucks. We have a number of other things. But I've given you the headlines or the highlights, and we hope you join us. And Carole, any last words?
Oh, no, I just thank everyone for always coming. I'm just the most thrilled that people come, and could have talked forever about root vegetables, but I hope that everyone goes and gets things that they've never had before and tries things out. And again, if you've fallen off your New Year's resolution to be healthy, it's a common thing, and just get right back on.
Exactly. I want to add one more shout out to our incredible tech producer behind the scenes, Jim Spellos. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you. And on that note, have a good evening, everyone. And thanks a million for joining us. Bye.
Bye.